Welcome to the first instalment of the Fitted Furniture Makers podcast. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, be aware that you can also find this now as a podcast. I'll put details in the description below. If you found this as a podcast, then welcome. And my name is Alistair Johnson at Freebird Interiors. I've got a channel on YouTube called Freebird Interiors, which is all about the making of fitted furniture, sprinkled with some SketchUp videos, pricing information, and that sort of thing. So in a similar vein, I decided to start a podcast interviewing other fitted furniture makers at different stages and scales of business. So for this first episode, we're going to be talking to John Jones at Jones Interiors. Hi, John.
Hi, Alistair.
Thanks for joining us. What I'm going to do is bring up your Instagram feed for those that are watching this, and you can just talk us through a little bit about your business. So tell us more about you.
So my name's John Jones. I'm from a small town in South Wales called Merthyr Tydfil. It's about 20 miles from Cardiff. So basically, same as yourself, I specialise in the more bespoke joinery, so the fitted furniture, wardrobes, alcove cupboards, and the stairs storage. And I also do a lot of kitchens as well.
Okay, and how did you get into this line of work originally?
So basically, I started back in 2015, where I started doing the MDF wardrobes because I seen a gap in the market. I used to sub to a company called Homebase, doing the kitchens and bedrooms through a third party, and is something I really wanted to get into and started experimenting myself, and it just took off from there really, and every year it's grown from strength to strength.
It looks like you're doing really well, and I know that you've got an impressive number of followers on Instagram. So I've noted that you've got you've got around about the same amount of posts as me, but 4 or 5 times the number of followers, I think. And
okay.
I'm interested. I think one of the reasons, apart from you're obviously great at communicating what you do, I think you use stories a lot. It seems like you've had a lot of engagement with stories on Instagram. So tell me how you found that whole process of building followers there.
When the stories first came out on Instagram, I wasn't too sure about it because obviously it's more of a live feed. I know you can edit them, but it's got to be a natural process of just doing what you're doing on that moment in time. And I do get really nervous, and I'm not a great speaker. So I was very reluctant to do it. But again, with anything, you just practice and editing a few of the small videos, the stories. And I was getting a real good response for it. And to, basically the real life, what I was doing on that day. And I tried to be quite honest at showing my good stuff, and also when I mess up as well. So that's been really positive, and I get a much better response from stories to my actual posts.
I think you are a good speaker, and I think most people downplay their ability to communicate, but I think you're just yourself, which is always important, and you speak and explain things very clearly from what I see. So I think that's what perhaps others have responded to.
That. Yeah, definitely.
I see a lot of people. Sorry, go on.
It's I do get a lot of response saying, "Oh, I wish I could do what you do," but like yourself, you're very good at explaining stuff and what you're doing. It is difficult sometimes, and I do actually feel quite guilty sometimes if I don't put a story out there, and people do actually message me saying, "Oh, is everything okay? You haven't put a story out for a few days," and so it seems people are waiting for all the stories.
Well, that's good, isn't it? It is a pressure though, then, isn't it? Because it can be a job in itself to manage the social media on top of your work.
Yeah, definitely. I try and do it. Like some weeks I don't do it at all because I just don't feel like doing it. I'm busy with, because you are trying to run a business. So I think when people are forcing it, I think that comes across when people are trying to just put content out because they feel that they got to. I think that's when you probably you should step back a bit and just reflect on, well, what are the reasons why I'm doing this? And I'm doing it because I enjoy doing it, no other reason.
I think you come across as a very keen learner and teacher, which I think usually goes together. And it's clear that you're you're growing a business and you're trying out different methods. And I mean, just going through your feed here, so there's a noticeable progression from majority, I would say, MDF and the
Yeah.
odd fitted sliding wardrobe. So recently, I've noticed you did a few sliding wardrobes with more. Am I right in thinking more pre-finished boarded
Yes.
internals? So is that
Um,
a real change in your business at the moment?
yes. And again, it's through Instagram why I've gone into that change. And like I said, I think Instagram is a very, inspirational platform, to be honest. And it's just makes you want to be better, and you see a product and go, wow, that is something I would like to get into. And then you speak to follow people on Instagram saying, right, where do you get your stuff from? And so many people has helped me out in that process, and said, right, go here for this. And um and yeah, I've only now got into MFC, and to be honest, I didn't think I would ever get into it, because area I'm in, the price that it brings, didn't think it'd be a good market to get into, but it does seem very popular at the moment. So that's why I changed my business name and tried to go down a bit more professional route. So at the
So
moment,
you're
it seems to be
deliberately
working.
chasing. Sorry to interrupt. You're deliberately
Yeah.
chasing the fitted furniture
Yes.
more than skirting boards, flooring, door hanging, that sort of thing. Hence the interiors
Yeah.
in the name.
Yeah. Yeah, so the name change came because I wanted to drop the carpentry, because I didn't want the phone calls of just hanging some doors or doing some skirting. And obviously, there's nothing wrong with that. I've been doing that for so many years, since 2005. That's when I started my business. But it's just something I'm not really interested in doing anymore. And I do believe there's a gap in the market for the kind of work I'm getting into, is the bespoke side of it, with the wardrobes and alcove cupboards and understairs storage. And that's the market I just want to concentrate on at this moment in time.
Okay, that's interesting, because it's a very similar range of work to what I identified as there being a market for me in Sheffield. I know
Yeah.
you're in South Wales,
Mm.
and I think it's about where people are asking for the work, but also the crossover with your skills and abilities and the scale of your company. So I found that the fitted alcoves, the bedrooms, the understairs storage, small company, very bespoke approach was appealing to people, and I was struggling to say do the big scale kitchens that also needed more management and more trades involved. So I sort of carved out a niche, very similar, I think, to what you're doing, and very
Yeah.
similarly rebranded with interiors in the name to try and bring more of that emphasis. So I see a certain amount of connection with your business journey as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So I've got a few questions that I thought might be interesting to go forward with. So um, the first two are just about your preferred methods, which I think is quite revealing for how to
Yeah.
make a shaker door and how
Yeah.
to make a floating shelf. So
Okay.
talk us through how you would typically make each of those items.
Okay. Well, regarding the shaker door, and I believe this was quite a highlighted point in my doing the fitted furniture, of what made me stand out to everyone else, because obviously the standard method is a cope and stick method of it's a 5-piece door and gluing it up
Yes.
using a router table. I don't do that. And a very good friend of mine, and I'm going to mention his name because he deserves a mention, a guy called Julian Collins, who's a very good carpenter and kitchen fitter. I was speaking to him one day on the phone, and I said a customer wanted a shaker style door, and I didn't know about the process of doing it. And I have thought about using 9mm MDF and then sticking a 6mm on top, and then just pinning it on to create the right rails and styles. But I wanted to try and go a different route to that. So he told me about the method of cutting your door to the height and width, and then creating new styles and rails are coming in. I come in 100mm top and bottom and side to side, and then cutting the center out with a punch saw. So I'd cut out my center of the punch saw, and then I flip the door on its front, and then use a rebating bit, and then plunge down 9mm,
And so
And
do you
then,
square off the corners with a handsaw after you've done the plunge saw cut?
no, I use a Japanese saw, sort of
Okay.
flush cutting, to obviously to square it up.
So
And then
that's a pull saw, is it?
pull saw, pull saw, and then obviously do some sanding to get it really, a nice crisp corner. And then once you rebated it, I get a 6mm MDF panel, and then I use a 23 gauge nailer and glue and pin a panel in, to basically create the shaker style door.
So is it an
Uh,
18mm solid panel to start with?
yes, 80mm panel to start with, and like I said, you've got a 6mm panel in the middle. Then
And is
hope
that
that
six
makes sense.
6mm panel flush to the back of the door? Or is it set in a
No,
little
it's set in 3mm because I punched down 9mm. It's not flush, and I think that helps because you cut in a piece to
You
fit
mean
in.
you rebate down 9mm? You plunge 3,
Yeah,
then rebate 9mm deep. Yeah.
yeah. I have actually done a story, and it is highlighted on my Instagram because I was having so many messages. And in the beginning, I was basically trying to keep the secret to myself.
Okay.
But I was getting so many messages about it, and I thought, well, do you know what? Someone told me about it, so I thought I'd share it as well. So
Okay.
if you, I see you on the Instagram page. If you go, that's it. Click the arrow, and it should be right
Oh,
for
it
you. So
is there. Yeah. Shaker
yeah.
doors. Will that
So
come
there's
up?
basically a
Yeah.
step-by-step guide on how to do it.
Right. Yes. Oh, I don't know.
That's it.
Are you hearing that audio?
Yeah, I can hear the whole audio.
Right, so
Yeah,
that we won't go through that now. But for
yeah,
those listening on the podcast, Jones Interiors _SW on Instagram, and the first story, which is the circle at the top left there on his page, is his shaker door method.
yeah.
Now, I find shaker doors an interesting question. We'll get on to the chunky shelf next.
Okay.
I think just sticking on the shaker doors, it's something that most people in our line of work end up doing a lot of.
Yeah.
Because people just like it. And I know for me, I experimented with lots of different door styles, including fancier cope and stick ones with a molded beading and a raised panel. But I found that most people weren't that bothered by that. So if I offered it, people might go for it, but I was causing
Okay.
myself so much more work than a simpler shaker door. And if I
Yeah.
simply offered the shaker door, most people were happy with that as well.
Mm.
And I think your journey of different methods to then the solid panel cutout method, if we call it that, is I think a journey that lots of people go on. And I think sometimes you can have sort of like a brainwave, or somebody suggests a method, you think, wow, this is it, this is going to be the
Yeah.
perfect method. And for me at one stage, that perfect method
Definitely.
was the stuck on strips idea. Because I thought, oh, brilliant! I won't have to
Yeah.
clamp up. I won't have the drying time. And I spent ages experimenting with different types of glue, contact adhesive, wood glue, super glue, and then whether or not to pin it, because once you pin it, you have to fill the holes.
Yeah.
Whether or not to leave a distinct V joint. So, because if you
Yeah.
chamfer the strips that go on, and I find it interesting on Instagram seeing different woodworkers at different stages. Some, like, for example, Derek Barrett, who I was
Yeah.
very interested to discover recently. That is his method for doors, because I
Yeah.
see him as sort of high level, doing very, very well. And he
Definitely.
doesn't clamp up 5-piece doors. He uses the stuck on strip method.
That's right.
To others then who cut through, which we then moved on to doing for a while, the cut through method. And again, I thought that was the silver bullet, the perfect method. But my problem with that has been the amount of dust it creates rebating out.
Yeah.
And although it seems like a time saver, I found the squaring off of corners and all that sort of thing wasn't necessarily as much of a time saver as I first thought. Have you had any further thoughts on it since doing it more regularly?
No, like I said, I wouldn't say it's the quickest method. And like I said, it is a lot of wastage because obviously you cut in an aperture out of the center of the door, and because them corners are not square now, you do get a lot of wastage. But because it works for me, and I've always stuck to that method. I've never really tried the plant door method. And I don't know why, and I know it's a very successful method, and like you said, Derek uses it, and like, you know, I would class him as a high end in what we do as well. So, but I've always stuck to that method because it's always worked. It's never let me down. So probably I should try experiment sometimes. And I do find, you know, myself, sometimes I don't look into other methods. I just find the method that works for me and I stick to it, because of being scared of, you know, it not working out sometimes and losing money.
I
But
think if something's working for you, it does make sense to stick to it. And I've often jumped ship to another method, idealizing that it's going to be the best. But every method has its upsides and its downsides. So in many ways, I think it's as good a method as any.
yeah,
I mean, we've moved from the method you're talking about to then doing really the very same thing, but with CNC
that's right.
outsourcing. Of course, that brings a cost because you're paying someone to do it. We hope to move long term to doing it in house.
Yeah,
But again, I mean, pros and cons. We've decided that suits us best for now because we've got the amount of work going through that it's worth paying someone just to get those doors made, and they're so accurate. That's the great thing with CNCing them, is they are perfectly square. And then we're paying for that, but we're doing productive work at the same time, and we turn the jobs around quicker. But yeah, so moving on to a chunky floating shelf in an alcove, what would be your preferred method to make one of them?
Well, to be honest, I've only ever done one chunky floating shelf,
Okay.
in a job anyway. And I actually have to, you know, go to your YouTube page and have a look how you do it.
Right. Okay.
Because for some reason where I am, it's not something people look into. And on my Instagram, I shared a post about, I think it was the first ever alcove cupboard I've ever done.
That was
And that
fairly
was
recently,
recently.
wasn't it? I
Yeah, it
remember
was
being
very recently.
surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. People, it's just not something people want, to be honest. So, and
It
it's a
was
shame,
this one
really.
here,
That's
was it?
it.
Was this your
That's
first?
the
And that's
one.
only what, 5 posts down.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, 4 weeks ago. And like I said, it's a shame because I really enjoy doing it, and it seems to be all over the country except for where I am. Everybody wants one. And I'm hoping to do more, and I'm hoping me putting them pictures out of that, if people are going to see it and say, oh, I really like that and want to do that. At the moment, I haven't had no other inquiries about it, which is a shame. But basically the same method as you were doing. I have done some just floating shelves on its own without the cupboard at the bottom, and I used your method of ripping down 18mm MDF into 18mm strips and then screwing them to the wall and to the sides, and then using a 12mm MDF for the bottom and 12mm for the top, and then using a 12mm front capping, and then just pinning it all in place.
Okay, that's a bit different to my method where I'd use 18mm all round. So you will have ended up with
Right, okay.
slimmer
Yeah,
shelves.
slimmer shelves, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But again, it's something that I want to do more of, but it just doesn't seem to be very popular at the moment around here, which is a shame.
Interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, and I suppose, I mean, it's not something I've given a lot of thought to, but I can imagine that the market is certainly different in different areas of the country.
Definitely.
Certainly in terms of what people are willing to pay. I mean, the obvious difference as you look on Instagram and see what people are doing in different areas. Well, I always tend to assume that people are charging a lot more in London.
Mm.
And actually, though, I'm quite interested to discover people all around the country who are able to charge a really good amount,
Yeah.
um, based on the quality of their work. And something I find interesting is I often think that the limit on what we can charge is more in our own minds than
Yes.
the market out there. And there are customers that when you're starting out and you're getting people who want to pay IKEA prices for bespoke furniture, you just think, how
Yeah.
can I ever make this pay? And it's like you don't even ever come across the customers that would pay more because they don't show themselves until
No.
you sort of draw them in with a better quality of work on your website, Instagram, or whatever. And
Yeah,
can find,
definitely.
I think almost anywhere in the country, you can sort of go up and up and find those
Yeah.
people. And from things you've said, I think you're sort of, you're moving up, aren't you? You're saying I forget if it was at the start of this podcast or earlier, you said to me that you didn't think there'd be a market even for the pre-finished MFC boards versus the unfinished MDF, but you are now finding people are happy to pay for that. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like exactly like you said, you don't really find the top end customers until you start putting it out there. So it is a gamble. I was very lucky. The first MFC job I done, so the pre-finished job I done, it was very good customers of mine, and I was actually part of building a house with another company. So we actually built their house from scratch, a stick build, and I'd done every part of the house. And it was very good customers of mine. And I went to them and said, look, I know you're interested in another wardrobe because I've done MDF wardrobes at the home in the past, and they wanted another one. I said, well, would you be interested in the pre-finish? So basically, they was my guinea pigs, and they was happy to go along with that. I still obviously charged them labor for it, but it was at a lower rate than what I would charge now. And obviously, they understood that, and I said, you know, there might be a few hiccups and a few mistakes, but bear with me and we see how it goes. And they was happy with it. And to be honest, it went fantastic. It worked really well. So, and since I've done that, I've had 4 or 5 jobs just from that job alone.
And that is the way it goes, isn't it? Sometimes doing a job opens up others. And I guess we all have to do those first jobs. There's always that element of risk, and you may not make money on it either because you deliberately underprice it to get it, or you just don't realize what's involved. And as we're talking about moving higher end, I imagine there'll be people listening to this, if they've even listened this far, who when they think fitted furniture will be thinking, well, that should be solid wood, hardwood, all that sort of stuff. But we've only so far talked about MDF, and we've talked about MFC as if it's a step up, but you could obviously go way up. Do you have any experience of working in solid woods and oak doors and that sort of thing?
No, none at all. None at all. It's not something that's ever come up. I'm not a joiner, I'm a carpenter, so you know, it's something I never had any experience with, to be honest. And to be honest, I don't really, if I want to get into that really high end stuff. I'm happy in what I'm doing. So, and like I said, I wouldn't want to class myself as a cabinet maker. So I probably would actually stay away from it, even if the job did come up. I know that sounds quite mad, really. Even when
I don't think it does, and I've made a similar choice. Although I think maybe I feel less at ease with the choice than it sounds like you do, because I went into woodworking really wanting to work with solid wood, and to me MDF was a bit of a dirty word. I think I've learned, as I think we all have in this trade, that MDF is the right material for the job, for a lot of the work we do, both in terms of economy but also performance, the flatness of the finish and the stability when it's used right. So what for you would be your ideal project?
Well, I've got actually 2 ideal projects, and I've done both of them this year. So I do like doing like a full house, and I was very fortunate to be part of a big project. It was a self-build, and I done wardrobes in every single room. So it was 4 rooms in total, and I also fitted the kitchen as well, and it was quite a large kitchen. And I was on that job for about a month in total, and I really enjoyed that. And it was quite relaxing in regards to, for a month I knew I was going to be on that job.
There's a security in that, isn't there? You're dealing with one person, you've got the one meeting to win them over, I suppose, and then you're set, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, because I tried to complete the job within a week, and sometimes it goes into a Saturday, or I have to go back in a Monday, and it's a lot of stress with that as well, making sure that your job is finished when you say or want it to be finished. But when you're on a big job, that pressure is off a little bit more, obviously, until the last week when you might be running behind. But I really enjoyed just going to the same place every single day, and I that was quite relaxing to me. And again, it does take up a lot of your time, and you feel you're booking further and further ahead, because you know you're going to be on a job a lot longer than normal. But that was a really good job, and I'm hoping to do more jobs like that in the future too.
Okay, great. So what do you love about your work? This is the first of two questions. The second one being, what do you hate about your work?
Yeah. Well, I love everything regarding doing the actual work.
Hmm.
So, even if it's just down my small workshop, preparing all the materials and taking the deliveries to the actual on-site fitting and dealing with the customer. Um, I I can't I can't say I don't like, it's nothing I don't like about that kind of process. Um, I just love my job. I think I'm very lucky in that respect, that I do love what I do. Obviously you have bad days, but I can't say I wake up in the morning and is a certain aspect of the job saying, oh, I really don't want to do that today.
So there's nothing you hate about your job. You just love the whole thing.
Well, regarding doing the work,
Yeah.
the second part of the question of what you hate is the admin side of it, the pricing,
Yes.
and I think that is quite normal in what we do. I'm a carpenter. I'm a qualified carpenter. I went to college for 3 years to do my carpentry apprenticeship. I'm not a businessman, and that's one thing I really do struggle with, is the business side of it, the admin, the pricing, even regards to like the emailing and stuff. I'm dyslexic, so I really struggle with that side of it. So I got to rely on my wife to help me with that sort of stuff, and I do get quite frustrated sometimes.
I wanted to ask you about that because I noticed on one of your Instagram posts, I think you mentioned that your wife does all the writing. Is that right? I was quite amazed to hear
everything.
that.
Yeah, she does
Incredible.
everything. I'm very lucky that she does all my writing. So all my Instagram posts, all the replies back to everyone is all done by my wife.
Wow.
Obviously, I tell her what to say.
Well, so she'll read out to you a comment and you'll say this, write this.
Every night, once the children are gone to bed, we will sit down for an hour and we will go through all the posts and all the comments and try and reply to every single person.
She sounds like she's a real support then for you in the
definitely.
business.
I know it sounds really cheesy. I couldn't do what I do without her. I'm very lucky, and she's very supportive. And she's the one that actually pushes me to do more Instagramming and even go into YouTube. She's the one who's trying to push me to do that. She's definitely the driving force behind it. I'd rather just sit and watch TV in the night.
Okay. And it sounds like she's helping to create a structure as well. I know something that I find hard is Instagram tends to take over. It is very addictive. Perhaps it's been quite helpful for you that you can't reply except with her. So it sounds like you've carved out a time in the day when you do that. Do you think perhaps that stops it taking over?
Yeah, definitely. We have got a time and a limited time to do it, so it doesn't take over too much of my time. And I think I think that's what you got to be careful with social media, is you doing it for the wrong reasons, and you are doing it for the right reasons. And for the right reasons for me is because I enjoy doing it. It's my hobby. I do believe Instagram is part of my hobby. And I love doing it. So, and I think if I woke up one morning and said, I don't want to do Instagram anymore, I just wouldn't do it. And I do have times where I don't post and don't do any stories on Instagram. And I just don't do it. And then I do feel guilty sometimes because I do have messages saying, oh, is everything okay? I'm here from you for a while. And so you do feel a bit guilty sometimes, which is quite strange. But it does motivate you as well to have quite an upbeat look into your working day and think of stuff to do.
Yeah. So one of my next question was going to be what really motivates you deep down. And from everything you've said so far, it does sound like the love of the work, be it the woodwork or the talking about it on Instagram, seems to drive you forwards. But would you add to that about what motivates you?
I think obviously we work for money, so that is obviously the main goal, is to make sure that you've got enough money coming in. But I wouldn't say it's the main motivation and the main reason why I do what I do. I probably could get more money working for a company and trying to do that. And I have been offered a few times in working for a company. And I did experiment once in doing that, but it just wasn't for me. I love working on my own and doing what I do and pick and choosing my work. So I think it's just about the quality of life that I got is more important to me. And again, I'm in a very fortunate position at the moment, and probably I've been for the last 2.5 years, is I pick and choose my jobs. If a job comes in and I don't like the look of it, I just won't do it. So,
So you mean you have enough coming in that you can do that, let
yeah,
some go?
definitely.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Are you aware of much competition? Do you come across many others in your area doing similar work to you, who you sometimes hear have won a job that you might have done?
To be honest, no, not really. I'm in my area, some fantastic carpenters, some really good guys, and especially kitchen fitters as well. And a couple of years ago, that was my main income, is the kitchen fitting. I was probably doing a fit a week, and that was a lot more competitive, and you had to be really careful on the pricing because there was so many. But regarding the bedrooms and the understairs storage, there's not too many people doing it. I've seen it a few times, but I think it's good as well. You have got some competition. I think it's quite healthy because you don't get stuck in a rut and you don't get too arrogant. So if someone does win a job, then I will say, right, well, why didn't I win that job? Is it to do with the pricing? Because I don't believe all the time it's just to do with the pricing. It's
No,
the way you come
I'm sure
across.
it's not. Yes, I've certainly observed that I will sometimes know that I've won a job and been more expensive,
Yeah.
and vice versa. But I think there are a lot of reasons why customers choose someone.
Yeah, definitely. I think the first impression, of going out to the customer and like you, I think image means everything. I think if you go out and you turn up late, or you even regards to if your van is very old and not looking great, and you're quite scruffy, and I think it all helps. I think image
Yeah,
is
you're
very,
making
very
me think,
important.
because I've got a pretty much a year-old dent in my van, which I'm quite ashamed of, given that everybody on YouTube can see it. I've just never, because it's the time to find a door and have the van out of action and the money to fix it, but
I
it does keep
understand. Yeah,
getting to
yeah,
my conscience, and you've
yeah,
reminded me again. Have you sign written your van? Because that's something I decided to hold off doing for
yeah,
because of the dent, but also, I don't know, you have to choose your expenditure, don't you,
yeah,
wisely, because there's always demands on your money as a small business. Yeah,
yeah,
have you signed
definitely.
written?
Well, actually, I just bought a new van, and I'm actually picking
Okay.
it up in a few days' time. And again, the reason why I bought the new van is because of the image thing.
Okay.
My van I got a VW Transporter, and it's 2008, and it is looking a bit shabby. And I do think that with a new van, and I am going to sign right there, and it's just going to add to the kind of work I'm going into, and give
Great.
the customers a bit more of a reassurance that you're proud to put your name out there and what you do. And again, I don't know if it's going to make a massive difference, but I think it's the right route to go down at the moment.
I think you're right. It really seems like you're on the up with the rebrand, the new logo, the
Yeah,
new van. And I think, from observing others that have done that sort of thing, I think there is like an uplift in how you're seen, but also how you see yourself. I
yeah,
think there's a lot to be said for putting yourself out there as somebody capable and professional, and you find it raises your own game as you sort of create that environment around yourself. That's,
yeah.
I mean, to some extent, my experience.
Yeah, I think the last couple of years I have got probably stuck in a rut, and being a bit, well, I got loads of work in. I don't need to change anything, and if it's not broke, don't fix it. And
Yeah.
it's only been the last couple of months that I thought, well, no, I need to change my way of thinking. And if I do want to go for the bigger, better jobs, and which you can charge more money for, then I think you've got to change yourself first. So that's why I'm doing the rebranding, and not, I wouldn't say I'm taking a massive risk, but taking a little bit more of a risk instead of being complacent in what I have been doing.
Sounds good. So as you're growing, What would be your ideal size and shape for your business long term? Do you have a destination in mind for what your business would look like?
Well, I actually want to go down to 4 days a week.
Okay.
That just because I'm spending so much time in the evenings pricing and doing the paperwork side, and even regards to just tidying up, like even if it's just a workshop or a van, I'm spending too many hours outside of the normal 9 to 5 doing them sort of bits. So I want to try and do a 4 day week in regards to working 4 days in work, and then maybe the fifth day is doing where I do all my pricing and doing all the other sort of bits. So even though I say 4 day week work, I still be working the full 5 days, but not as many hours as I'm doing at the moment, if that makes sense.
I see. Yes.
I don't think I would take anyone on, and I wouldn't want to expand it that way. I have had an apprentice in the past, and I put him through his apprenticeship, and it was a great experience. But I don't think I'd do it again, and I don't think it'd be fair on the apprentice, because obviously they need the full range of carpentry work if they was going to be a qualified carpenter in what I'm doing. So I don't think it'd be fair for a proper apprentice. Maybe I would take on a kind of labourer or some sort of guy who's quite handy. But again, I can't see it at the moment. But again, this time last year, I couldn't see myself with a workshop or rebranding. So you never know what comes in the future, to be honest.
Yeah, you never know, but it does seem that you're quite content in your work, and you've got a bit of a plan moving forward. But it's clear that the making and the doing of the work is your motivation more than, say, building a business empire or anything like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I think will resonate probably with a lot of people listening to this. That I think those that gravitate towards fitted furniture are often people that quite like working on their own with their hands, quite detail oriented, quite quality oriented, and growing that beyond yourself is a very difficult thing to do, and something that many of us just don't have a great appetite to do. So yeah, well, it's been really interesting to hear about your business. Is there anything else you'd like to share or talk about before we wrap this up?
No, I think we've covered everything, to be honest. I don't think you've got no more questions.
No, I've got to the end of my list of questions, and
brilliant.
I think we'll leave it at that, John. So thank you very much. And
thank you. It's been good.
You're welcome. Yeah, and I hope this will be the first of more podcasts. So if you've listened this far, then thank you, and do look out for more. I will be publishing on YouTube and Instagram the schedule as that gets firmed up. I'm not going to promise it at time of recording, but I do hope this becomes a more regular thing. And if you would like to nominate anybody to be on this, to chat about their work, anyone perhaps you know from Instagram, YouTube, or elsewhere, or if you'd like to come on yourself, then just get in touch with me. Okay, John, well, Happy New Year. We're recording this as it happens on New Year's Eve. So I hope all goes well for you in 2020.
You too, Alistair. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. See you on Instagram.
Bye now. Bye.
Bye.